Hi Alan, lovely to meet you at the range last night and start to do some work on your game. Just a quick recap on the key points that we covered. Pretty typical of a lot of people we see. You've been trying to swing the club by maintaining the spine angle throughout the swing, and the problem when you do that is it really severely limits the length of the golf swing, so the amount of the distance the club can travel during the course of the backswing, and also in your case shifts the plane dramatically to the right. So you can see there now there's a lot of forward flex been maintained. So the forward flex that you have at address, so if you will, if we're looking down the line, we're seeing a player who is tilted forward so that the sternum is out in front of the hips, and that is then going to be maintained throughout the time and space of the backswing. And when we see that, what we always see is a player whose head moves down and to the right. Now, you've been complaining that you've had difficulty getting off the right side. There's such a load into that right side that it's nigh impossible to then get off it. There's no stretching out of the spine. There's a limited capacity to turn, and the butt of the club, you can see there, just doesn't travel very far at all. From there, your tendency is to try and drive the legs, hitting out at it the maximum amount you can, and you're just hitting quick hooks and struggling to get any distance on your golf shots. So what we talked about was how the spine works. Now when we look at this top right image, what we're seeing again is a player who's bent forward at setup, sternum out in front of the hips. And if we were going to do a line from face on, what we would see is a sternum and a belt that are sort of over the top of one another. Let's get rid of that line for a sec. So the sternum and the belt, straight line up, not a massive disparity between the two. You're kinked over to the right a little bit too much at address, which doesn't make things easy, but we will work on that as your lessons progress. So sternum and belt buckle near as damn it over the top of one another, if anything bent to the right a touch, let's say 15 degrees. If we stay at 90 degrees to the turn of your shoulders, what we're now seeing, if we put that same straight line up from your belt buckle, we're now seeing that the sternum is no longer out in front of the hips, and it's no longer tilted to the right, but it's actually tilted to the left. So there's a side bend to the left during the backswing if we're going to stay centered. And this is what we're doing on this drill. We fix the head and ask you to propel the butt of the club as far as you can. Now, at the start of the session, you were talking about maybe a lack of flexibility and back problems you've had in the past. And yet, if we look at the length of backswing you achieve there, compared to where you were at the start of the golf swing or the start of the session, the butt of the club has travelled much further. The hips have turned more. The right hip now is visibly higher than the left. The right leg is starting to straighten out. The left knee is flexed forward. So there's a really good positive effect here just by fixing the head and trying to propel the butt of the golf club as far as possible. And the main thing that you would be feeling at this point is that you're side bending to the left and really stretching the spine out. You will feel that the whole of the right side is stretching out at this point. So you can see what we have at address is we put the line up, straight up from the belt buckle. The spine is tilted to the right. And then when we get to the top of the backswing, if the axis is fixed, we've got the same red line up from the belt buckle, but now the spine is tilted to the left. And that's an act of both extending and left tilting. Now, the left tilt that you get, you can see as we look at it from sort of skewed face on, the left shoulder working down initially gets the shoulders to turn, gets the arms to work in, and helps stabilise the axis. To stabilise the axis now, the player must extend, and as I come round and pan round with the camera, what you're going to see is that the left tilt that you've put in there is now what helps you maintain your inclination to the ground. So the old adage of maintaining your spine angle is not actually true. You maintain your inclination to the ground, but you don't maintain your spine angle. So we take a little look now at you towards the end of your session. We're trying to stabilise the axis. We're going to get better at that as time goes on. What we've got now is a situation where during the backswing, instead of moving down substantially into the right like we were at the start of the session, we're now just moving to the right. So what we've got to get better at doing now is the extension, and as we extend more, stand up more, we've also got to left tilt more, but at least we're on the right track. So we're no longer moving as much down and to the right. So we put the angle on here now compared to where you were at the start of your session. You can see the difference between those two lines is not as great. So there's a little bit more extension, there's a little bit more left tilt, and as a result the butt of the golf club has travelled further during the golf swing. The shots you were hitting at the end of the session were much better, they were higher, they were straighter. The other thing we did talk about, Alan, there's no need to release that golf club. Releasing the golf club, turning more, getting the shoulder behind the ball are all bad pieces of advice for you. It's just shifting the plane further and further to the right. It's limiting the distance you can propel the butt of the club during the golf swing, and it's closing the club face down way too fast coming through impact. Good luck with it. I look forward to speaking with you at the weekend. Well done.